I am working on a DC motor, Armature Commutator. Commutator is the copper segments that the current goes through. This particular one is one of them, the first one that I tried, and it didn't do too well. You can see where there's no separation in the commutators segments. So I've got that one set aside. That was just a test one. This is the current one that I'm working on. This particular DC motor has a 3-inch diameter on the commutator, and I've already turned to this one to where it's smooth. Currently I am working on the undercut, so this will look at the undercut for the commutator. In undercutting, I'm using a simple hacksaw blade that's been broken. Now I've clamped that in the lathe in the tool holder to cut between the segments. And if you look carefully, you can see the teeth on the hacksaw blade. Here's the hacksaw blade. And I've lined it up, made sure that it's square with the face of the tool. Got it clamped in using the 3 hold down screws. And then I've brought it over and I've touched it up to the face of the commutator segments so that I could make sure it was smooth, make sure that it was straight across this way. And once I did that, came to the dial indicator, and I moved it in, got it square to where it was just touching the face of the segments. And then once you do that, you've got the slip ring that you can slide around and set to 0. That's your 0 reference mark. Looking across here, these are commutator segments that have already undercut. You can see where they've got a little bit of depth to them, a little bit of width to them. That's the last one that I did. This is one that I still need to do. I'll move it up to where it's got a little bit more light on it, and you can actually see the difference in it. The one that's been undercut, it's a distinct separation between each segment. And the others, they've got a little bit of copper that's spilled over from being cut with the cutting tool on the lathe. And sometimes when the cutting tool goes around, it will bulldoze the copper into the undercut areas. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to get all that cleaned out so that there's a distinct separation between each of the segments. And in order to do a cut, I've already got the hacksaw blade set in place to do the undercut. And I will find the correct one that I need to cut. See, that one's been done, that one's been done. Here's the next one. And I've got the depth gauge set to 0, so it's not actually down to making any kind of cuts yet. Now we'll line I'll get down to where I can line it up by eye with the cut, where it needs to be cut. Once I've got that in place, I come back over to the depth wheel. And for this particular one, since the commutator is not too damaged or doesn't have too much bulldoze, each pass that I make across it, I'm doing 5/1000ths of an inch. So I'll turn the depth wheel. I'm turning the, I've forgotten the name of it. I'm moving the whole carriage across. So with this, move it all the way across. Bring it all the way back out. Do the depth, another 5/1000. I'm going to do a total of 30 thousandths. And I'm doing all this manually. The machine is actually unplugged for all this. Another 5 thousandths. Five thousandths. Another 5 thousandths. Kind of difficult holding it, and you can see as it was going across, going to the left, that it actually cut some of a little bit of the copper and a little bit of the mica underlayment out. Okay, and now go another 5 thousandths, and that's at 30 thousandths, and that's the depth that I want to be from the top surface of the commutator to the bottom of the undercut. And again, you can see where it's cutting a little bit of the underlayment out, some of the mica, and maybe a little bit of the copper. Comes all the way over to the far left. Have it cut out. When I get done with the full cut on that undercut segment, I'll brush the hacksaw blade off just so I can line it up with the next one. I'll turn the depth dial back to 0, just so I know I'm not going to accidentally score the face of the commutator. And then I'm ready to manually turn the armature assembly and line it up with the next one. Move back and forth. If you need to, you can move that over to make sure you got everything just where you want it. And at that, I'm ready to start again. Do 5 thousandths. Run the cut across. Do 5 thousandths. Run it across. Do 5 thousandths. Run it across. And again, I'm doing all this manually. I don't have the machine's not even plugged in because I don't want to accidentally bump a switch and have something start up and startle me. So we'll do that for every segment through here, and then we'll have to go through and do the cleanup afterwards, which is another story.